Today we're going to be discussing reasonableness when multiplying with fractions. So in order to do this, I have to talk to you about a few different things. And an example that I have would be 3 times 17. So these are two whole numbers that we're going to multiply together. So when we multiply these two factors together, the product that we are going to get, is this going to be larger than 3, larger than 17, or larger than both? So this is the question. If you think about it with the commutative property of multiplication, this is 3 groups of 17, or vice versa, 17 groups of 3. So will you have more than 3 in your answer or as the answer? Yes. So we know anytime we multiply two wholes next to each other, the product is going to be bigger than each one of these ones, or each one of the factors. Okay? So therefore, if this was letter B, we know we could say that 3 is going to be less than B, and 17 is going to be less than B. B would have to be greater than both. Moving on to multiplying by 1. So I already had 3 times 17. Now we're going to do 3 times 1. Well, you and I know that any number times 1 equals that number. So again, is this product, the letter C, going to be greater than 3, less than 3, or equal to 3? Is it going to be greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1? Well, we know that any number times 1 equals that number, so the answer is going to be 3. So therefore, 3 is going to be equal to C. 1 is going to be less than C. Okay? Now we're going to look at a fraction. So we're going to start here with 3/4 times 1. So we have 3/4 times 1 equals this product. Now any number times 1 equals that product. So if we have 3/4 times 1, that's going to equal 3/4. So therefore, 3/4 is going to equal A once again. However, 1 is actually going to be greater than 3/4 because that is a fraction. So 1 is going to be greater than the fraction. Now we're going to talk about fractions times fractions and what is a reasonable estimate or a reasonable answer. So if I have 3/7 times 4/15 equals the product P this time. So if you think about a whole of something, so if I were to have a whole piece of paper, and when I have 3/7 of this piece of paper, that means I'm going to have 3/7 is close to half, if you did not know, because half of 7 is 3.5. So this is close to half. So if I start with half, right, I have this over here, but this is half. And then I'm going to, it says 3/7 groups of 4/15. Ooh. So then I have 4/15 of this. So if you did not know, so if I do 15 divided by 3, it's around 5. So this is actually close to a third. So if I take 4/15, it means I would have to take about a third. And this is what I have left. So this piece, is this piece bigger than the 3/7, or is it bigger than 4/15, 1/3? And the answer is no. It is a smaller than both of them. It's a piece of a piece. So a fraction, usually when you multiply any number by a fraction, it gets you a smaller number unless you're multiplying it by 1. So it's always, the product is always smaller than the fractions. So 1/2, obviously you know what 1/2 of the paper was, and if I were to just cut that into 1/3, you can tell that this piece is smaller than what we started with when we are multiplying by fractions. So therefore we know that 3/7 is going to be greater than our P, or our product, and that 4/15 is also going to be greater than our product. So once again, when multiplying fractions, the answer to the multiplication problem called the product is going to be less than or smaller than those. All right, so the next problem we're going to discuss is a mixed number times a fraction. Mixed number meaning that it has some type of whole with it. Now that will change our problem. So this number is close to 1, if you know, but it's not quite 1. And we know any number times 1 equals that number. So our answer, if this is not quite 1, then this answer is not going to be, it's going to be a little bit less than this. So we can tell that because we know that any number times a number equals that number. So 1 6/9 is actually going to be greater than the product. And so we have 6/7 here. That equals almost 1. And we know that we have a whole here and we have a fraction as well, that this is close to a whole. This is close to actually 1.5. So 1.5 times 1, this is going to be over 1. So I can say that 6/7 is going to be less than the product. And then if I even wanted to know if the answer is going to be close to 1, well, I know it's going to be over 1 because like I said, that this is 1.5 here and this is close to a whole. So it's going to definitely be greater than 1. All right, the last problem we're going to do is, let's do 5/16 times, let's go with 9, okay? And the product will be yes. So let's talk about if these are going to be greater than or less than of them. So obviously, if we have 9 and 5/16 of 9, that's going to be smaller than that whole answer. So it's not going to be as large as this. Now, we have 5/16 and we're actually making it times 9 groups. So if we have 5/16 plus 5/16 plus 5/16, that's like a tongue twister. Obviously, it's going to be greater than this fraction. So what about if I asked you about the number 2? Where would 2 be with S? If I put 2 is blank, like what could I fill in there with the S? Is that going to be a greater than, less than, or equal to? Well, you can see here that 5/16 is similar, it's about 1/3. I know that 5/15 is 1/3, so this is close to 1/3. So what's 1/3 of 9? And you guys know how to figure that out from before, but 1/3 of 9, remember you take the 9, you divide it by 3, it equals 3. So I know that this is close to 3. So where would 2 be? Well, 2 is going to be less than the product then. Just because of an estimate, this is what we're doing. It's reasoning about multiplying. So I know my answer is going to be somewhere close to 3, so it should be larger than 2. It might be 2 point something or 2 in some fraction, but it's going to be closer to 3. I hope this helps you with reasoning and thinking about your multiplication problems when you're multiplying with fractions.